What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones, and I'm going to give you guys a quick little behind the scenes. AJ's sitting about 5 feet from me right now because I've walked around this arena for the last 20 minutes trying to find a decent spot. He's muted right now, so our audios don't sync up and, blow up our computers. So that's why he's not talking. We're here following North Carolina's win over Michigan State, 85-69. Carolina advancing to the Sweet 16 next week in Los Angeles. I'm going to run through some stats real quick, AJ, and then you can unmute yourself and get going. RJ Davis led the way with 20 points. Armando Bacot, 18.7 boards. Harrison Ingram finished with 17 points and 7 rebounds. Cormac Ryan finished with 14 points, 11 of which came in the second half. So, AJ, let's start with this. Took a little bit for Carolina to get into that fight, didn't it? Got behind 12 in the first half, made that run, massive run going into halftime, 23-3, which completely flipped the momentum in the building, completely flipped the momentum on the court, and ultimately was a massive factor in Carolina being able to pull away late for the 16-point win in the end. But AJ, talk to me about the beginning of the game, because again, it was by no means a vintage performance to start from North Carolina, but I think what we saw in the second half was really positive from the Tar Heels.
I think some people will not agree with this part, but I actually think Carolina was completely ready to go. I thought they were ready to play, and they had what they typically would need in a game. The difference is that Michigan State brought it at a level that Carolina hasn't seen this year as far as the combination of physicality, hitting shots. I think that Michigan State surprised them at how efficient and effective they were at working the post. The one area that I think really surprised the Tar Heels, and sitting courtside was easy to notice this, is that the Michigan State big men got up really high. I mean, they had high release points for their jumpers in the lane and everything they did in the lane. I thought that really affected Carolina. In addition to Armando picking up his first foul 41 seconds into the game, I think that actually took a little bit of steam out of the Tar Heels in the sense that they were a little bit passive. They were a little bit cautious, and Armando admitted to me that he was cautious for a while, that sometimes he didn't box that hard, or sometimes he didn't body and challenge something near the rim that he would have typically challenged, because he could not afford to pick up a second early foul because it would have changed the game, and he was right. So I think part of it was that. I think part of it was the fact that it took them a while to adjust, and I think part of it was the fact that in these quick turnarounds, when you're playing teams that you don't know very well, sometimes you have to exchange blows for a while to get the kind of feel you need, because a quick scouting report, a quick film study ain't going to do it. Sometimes you just have to get out there and play, which is why you do often see in NCAA tournament games an early ebb and flow in games before somebody takes control, if somebody does take control. And then you also have to deal with teams that are playing with a level of almost, I wouldn't say desperation, controlled desperation in a sense, because they don't want their season to end, which is why Michigan State didn't go away even after Carolina closed the half on the 23-3 run. A lot of teams would have just been done. But Tom Izzo teams aren't done. They don't wilt. They don't relent. And they cut it to 5. In fact, it was 2 at one point. It was 48-46, and then it was 62-57 before Carolina used another run, a 14-2 run to sort of put them away. And that run, according to some of the Tar Heels I talked to, sucked a lot of the juice out of the Spartans. But I think it was, again, statistics don't really matter in the NCAA tournament, because the only thing that matters is if you win and move on. But I also think it's important to be forced to be different when you move on, when you advance, because so much of the tournament is about the unexpected. So much of the tournament is about dealing with an uncomfortable opponent that you have to get comfortable with during the course of the game. They had to do that with Wagner the other day when Wagner went to the zone. And they were uncomfortable at first, and then they worked through that. And, of course, that's Wagner. But still, stylistically, they had to deal with something and adjust in the game. And they had to adjust today. They had to raise their level of fight. And part of that was the trash talk. And they said today that nobody talked more trash to them all year long than Michigan State. In fact, Harrison said Michigan State was talking trash on Friday. Maybe when the teams are they're passing each other, one going out to practice, the other one coming in, there was a lot of trash talking. And Michigan State brought that, man. They brought it, they used it up, and Carolina eventually responded to it. And then they combined, Jacob, that hawk, that edge, meeting the fight with skill. And when they do that, they are a national championship caliber team. You don't have to be for 40 minutes to advance. You have to be enough to advance, and that's what they were today.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Sorry for the delay trying to unmute myself over there, which I almost forgot to mute myself in the first place when I kicked it to you. So that's how we're doing it today. But we're making two over here, AJ. But no, I completely agree with what you said. Yeah, go ahead and do it.
I know. See, I'm interrupting. We're having to adjust, just like the Tar Heels had to adjust. We have to meet the fight of our conditions right here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, man. You're absolutely right about it. I think this is our most, I don't know if challenging is the right word, but I'll use the word challenging 3 things of the season. But again, we're making do. Moving on, though, I want to talk about kind of the over-reliance on particular players, particularly in that first half. I was sitting next to Bryant Balcom on the concourse during the game in the media seats. And I remember in the first half, we were talking to each other like, man, this is like, it's a little bit reminiscent of the state game again, where it's kind of like RJ and Armando. And if they're not doing it, nobody else is really doing it. Nobody else is really calling for the ball. Nobody else is really hitting shots. But, man, did that completely flip in the second half. And Cormac Ryan, I mentioned him earlier, massive second half for him. 11 of his 14 points came in the second half. We saw more balanced scoring for Harrison Ingram, who finished with 17 points. That's a recipe for success for North Carolina. So I think they deserve the credit for the adjustments that went on. But, again, we saw glimpses of it again in that first half where it's just like the Tar Heels are not their best version of themselves when it's just playing kind of through RJ and then kind of playing through Armando and everybody else is kind of just there. That's not a recipe for success for North Carolina. Again, that flipped in the game. And I think that was a massive reason that Carolina went on to win it. So talk to me about that, because I know you talked to some players in the locker room after that about that kind of over-reliance. So talk to me a little bit about that.
There was a stretch there when Michigan State was opening up the lead where RJ went into doing too much mode. And that was early because it took a while. Went into the second half, really, when he started doing that against NC State last week. So he started doing that. Like, whoa, man, this club is like totally out of kilter right now. They are just not functioning with the Pistons firing at all. And I think the bench helped. Jalen Washington came in, gave him a couple of really good minutes with a couple of rebounds. He had a bucket. That little jumper that he hit gave them a much-needed bucket and sort of ended a stretch where they really weren't scoring much. And then in the midst of that 23-3 run to close the half, a lot of that was the activity of Paxton Wojcik. He had 2 rebounds. He had 2 assists. One of the rebounds was a rip and run. He went and got the ball at the rim. It didn't fall in his lap. He had to go get it. And he turned and he raced up the court. And we've talked a lot and written a lot about the father-son thing. His dad's an assistant coach at Michigan State, but he did what coaches' kids do. He went right down the middle, drew defense, and then eventually, as Armando said, he did kind of what the Warriors do with Seth Curry, give up a layup for a wide-open 3, pitched it to RJ in the right corner. He drained a 3, and when that happened, to me, that was the sign that all of their regular mojo was back. He was completely back, and they were getting contributions from the bench. So while the other starters kind of struggled for a while, Cormac was off for a while. Some of his shots just barely hit the one jumper from the corner, barely hit the rim. Harrison looked a little uncomfortable trying to get some stuff off over their length. But then here comes Jalen Washington, who's going to get a 10-foot jumper off over anybody because his release point is like on Mars. And then you get Paxton doing what he was able to do and give them a lift like that. I think that really gave this team a lot of juice and helped them a lot. So what you did was you got a lot of contributions from other guys, and that sort of reeled in the regulars. And Harrison, who has not shot the 3 very well for about the last 3 weeks, hit 3 threes during that run. And Cormac hit a 3. So when you think about it, they had 5 threes during that run. 1 by RJ, 1 by Cormac, 3 by Harrison. Those are the guys that need to hit threes for this team to advance. And they all did it, and they did it in that sequence. They also did some in the second half as well. So, in fact, those 3 were 10 for 19 from three-point range today. So if those 3 are combined about 10 for 19 and shooting that percentage range, and they're getting those threes up moving forward, they're just going to keep moving on. So that run was something that was not just RJ. Armando did hit 6 free throws and a layup, but him he was drawing fouls. It was the right thing to do. They weren't going into him over and over because he just had to be the only option. It was there because they weren't able to double down as much during that stretch because they were doubling him a lot. And they kind of went in and out of it, and he was able to get the ball and score, draw a foul before a lot of the doubles could come, or they were just laying off because the Tar Heels started hitting some threes. So this team is so much better off when it's not just RJ and Armando. I asked RJ after the game, I said, you only attempted 15 shots, and he attempted 13, by the way, Thursday. I said, I know you love to shoot, and I know you're cool handling 22, 24 shot attempts in a game, but how much better are you guys when you're at 15 shots in a game? And he immediately said, we're so much better. That's when we're at our best. So he understands. He doesn't want to shoot 25 times a game. He will if he has to, and sometimes his shots are just there, but he doesn't generally look at a game plan and say, hey, best case scenario for us is if I shoot 24 shots. He doesn't look at it that way. He's in the 13 to 15 range. That's a good sign for this team. That's where he was tonight. Armando had 10 field goal attempts, went to the foul line a bunch, knocking down those free throws, and they got the third score in Harrison at 17. They got the third score in Cormac at 14. So to me, that is the scoring blueprint for this team moving forward. That's what they want moving forward. If they get that for the next 4 games, if they play 4 more games, they'll be in position to do something very special in April.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As AJ mutes himself, good stuff over there. AJ got this quick hand over there. You're doing some impressive work 5 feet away from me to my left. But
nothing about me is quick.
Hey, man, you're impressing me tonight. But last thing, again, we're going a little bit quicker on this just because of the situation where it'll probably take 16 hours to upload this anyway. So we got to go ahead and get out of here. But let's talk about what this means, AJ. Obviously, Carolina advancing to the Sweet 16, playing the winner of Grand Canyon in the Alabama game, which doesn't tip off till tomorrow evening at 7:10 p.m. So they'll have to wait a little bit longer to see who they end up playing next week in Los Angeles. But again, recipe, for success for this team this time of year, man. It's just survive in advance. I tweeted out after the game, I didn't necessarily think Carolina was great tonight. I didn't think it was a great performance from the Tar Heels, but they did enough to win. And like I've said a few times in this podcast, they go on to win by 16 points with it, which again shows how good this team can be despite maybe not being at their best for 40 minutes, which I think is a major positive, and that's what it takes to make runs and potentially win this tournament. So Sweet 16. Big positive for North Carolina. Doesn't get any easier moving forward. It'll be interesting to see what the Tar Heels can do against the winner of that game next Thursday, I believe, is when the game will be regardless. So, again, I think if you're a Carolina fan, you're probably feeling pretty good about this one. And, I mean, I'm going to keep saying it. It's just survive in advance, man. You want to have good performances. That's great. I mean, that's awesome, and that can make you feel good going into the rest of it. But the fact of the matter is the only thing that matters this time of year is winning, and Carolina was ultimately able to do that. So.
And you want to have challenges. You want to have challenges that pull you out of your comfort zone and force you to initiate your comfort zone, to sort of craft that out yourself. And they did that today. They did it to a degree against Wagner, and I think that that's healthy. So it is survive in advance. Statistics basically don't mean anything. And I'll give you an example. Carolina was out-rebounded tonight for the first time since December 20th when they were in this building against Oklahoma. They went 24 straight games out-rebounding the opponents. They got out-rebounded by 5 tonight, and they advanced. Scoring at points in the paint tonight, 28-28, Carolina advances. Fast break points tonight, 9-9, Carolina advances. So you don't have to be early January, early February dominant statistically in all these boxes that make you think, well, they're just doing their thing right now. You're forced to play out of character at times. You're forced to do things that are unusual in order to navigate your way into the next round, and they did that. So they've had a taste of that so far. I think that's better than if they would have come out and just blown the doors off both these teams and waltzed into Los Angeles without really having that NCAA squeeze. There was some tightness in the building today. For a while, they trailed for a long time, and even when they couldn't shake Michigan State for a while, it was 2 points at one point in the second half. It was 5 points with 8 minutes left. Tar Heels couldn't shake them until they eventually did shake them. So I think that stuff is healthy. I think that you add coats of armor as you march through the NCAA tournament, and I think that they added some of that stuff this weekend. And now they go on to play either an upstart in Grand Canyon, which is very athletic and bouncy, or a club that's going to shoot a 6,000 three-pointers in Alabama. So again, they will be challenged in a different kind of way, but they've shown all year long they can win any kind of way. They can win all kinds of varieties. You can slow it down and grind, they can beat you that way. You can speed it up and try to outrun them, they can beat you that way. You can do everything in between, you can beat you that way. They can win games anyway. That's one of the reasons why they're where they are. Not all Carolina teams in the past have been able to do that. This one can do that. So if it's Bama, which is probably the odds that it would be them, although I think Grand Canyon can win that game. In fact, I had Grand Canyon in the Sweet 16 in the one bracket that I did. By the way, I did it driving to Charlotte and reading it. My brother was telling me the matchups, and I did it on the phone like that. So I don't even know what half my bracket looks like right now. But I do know I had Grand Canyon going to LA. So whoever it is, they're going to have to play a little bit different style. There'll be different kinds of challenges. I think this team has proven that they can handle all those things. So 2 down, 2 more to go before Phoenix, 4 more to go for Armando and RJ to reach their stated mission. And something that you could tell today is burning within Armando. It is burning within him to achieve this mission. And they're 1/3 the way there.
Yeah, 1/3 the way there. That's, by the way, that's the most AJ thing I've ever heard. Right, driving down to Charlotte to cover a game, and he's on the phone filling out an NCAA tournament bracket with his brother. That's fantastic, man. I had to just throw that in there. That's absolutely fantastic.
Sorry, I had the mute button there. I'm talking like an idiot. I have no idea what my bracket looks like. I really don't. I know I had Akron with an upset, and they didn't do it, and I did have Grand Canyon advancing. So who knows? I have no idea. I'll have to ask my brother. Maybe when I'm driving back tomorrow or something like that, I'll call him up and say, hey, how am I doing?
Oh, that's great, man. That's great. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. We battled today, just like the Tar Heels battled to that win over Michigan State, trying to get this 3 things done. I think it ended up doing pretty well, even with the, us having to mute each other back and forth. It was a mission impossible trying to find a quiet space. So I think we found the only quiet space in the arena. So we'll take the win and get out of town. Again, I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Keep it locked to TarHeelIllustrated.com for all your coverage from tonight's game and the rest of the tournament. And make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell too. See y'all next time. Thanks.